You need to at least onboard 4 to 50 million people into the financial system of Egypt. And this is happening because of fintech like us and others, of course. In 2017, 2018, there were no online payment accepted in Egypt except cash on delivery or cards. So we were the first company to be the first other than cash on delivery and cards to be accepted online. We don't want to be the buy now, pay later that sells mostly fashion products. But we do everything. We do restaurants, we do fashion, we do appliances, we do medical care, we do travel.
Welcome to Culturenomics with Arjun. The show aims to unravel the layers of the fintech sector and the rapidly evolving tech startup ecosystem across the MENA region and beyond. I am your host Arjun, and I will be inviting founders, executives, investors, regulators, and other influential stakeholders to discuss and dissect the highs and lows of their own ventures and how they foresee the wider ecosystem evolve. Join us as we celebrate success and the spirit of risk-taking, the candid discussion that goes past the timid question and cautious answers. This show is produced in collaboration with Adyan, a reliable end-to-end payment solution that enables businesses to turn payments into a strategic growth driver. We're also brought to you by Lulu Financial Group, a global financial services provider headquartered in Abu Dhabi and operating in 11 countries. Finally, Culturenomics with Arjun Singh is brought to you by M2P Fintech, Asia's leading payment infrastructure company that enables businesses of any scale to embed financial products. Welcome to today's episode of Culturenomics with Arjun Singh. I'm your host, Arjun. And today I'm joined by a guest who's flown all the way from Cairo, Egypt, to be on the couch with me. His name is Walid. He is founder and CEO of ValU, which is part of the EFG Hermes Group. Walid, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I hope you're comfortable on the couch.
I got used to it.
You got used to it. So, Walid, before I actually dive in, I must recognize you. In sort of my language, I consider you guys as one of the originals as far as BNPL and POS financing goes. If I'm not wrong, I think you started transacting late 2017.
December
2017. We then actually came across each other when I was still at Al Futtaim, and you launched with IKEA in 2018, middle of 2018.
June.
And it was, it was kind of like an instant success. And from what I heard from you before we actually got onto the show, the numbers are still very impressive and they're growing. So, well done, I guess.
Thank you.
Right. So we have only 25 to 30 minutes. So we're going to dive straight in, right? But before we get into the story of ValU, since you've been, I guess, the participant and I guess the early fintechs, if I may use that term, in Egypt, paint a picture for us with what's actually happening in the Egyptian fintech market, because it's increasingly capturing the imagination of people in the region, right? For someone like me, I spend a lot of time now reading into what's actually happening with Egypt. Rather than me saying what's happening in Egypt, we'd be very keen to hear it from you. What's catalyzing this growth? Which part of fintechs do you see growing more rapidly in the coming years?
So the growth in the past year and a half was actually very impressive. So when we started in 2017 and 2016, the players in fintech were only in payments. So the Fawri, the PayMob, all those guys were only in payments. Fintech, no one actually was focusing in any other part of fintech. In the past year and a half, 18 months, I think there was a great change in the landscape, and for different reasons. One of the most important reasons is, from my point of view, is the regulatory framework that has been actually catching up with all the changes that's happening. Mm-hmm. And this was because of the initiatives of the Central Bank of Egypt and the Financial Regulatory Authority. Now we have a law for fintech. And this law is like 2 months old right now. So this is something that is very important. It changed a lot of the appetite for a country like Egypt to have fintech governed by law. The other thing is there is a huge push on financial inclusion.
Agreed.
So there is no way you do a financial inclusion.
Egypt's got about 100 million people?
100 million people, yeah. So you need to at least onboard 40 to 50 million people into the financial system of Egypt. And this is happening because of fintech like us and others, of course. So this is very important. COVID made also a major change in that area. Now we look at fintech, we see new buy now, pay later companies. We see consumer finance companies that are using tech heavy stacks. We see some of the payment companies, although I think payment is going to go down because now it's crowded enough with very good players. We're waiting to see some people working on remittance. Blockchain is gaining some momentum. The new big players are going to be into, from my point of view, would be in crowdfunding, whether debt or equity. And I think this year we might see a couple of good players penetrating this market, given the changes in law that's happening and allowing those companies to work. Also on the RegTech. The RegTech is extremely important, whether it's an eKYC or anything that is related to that. There is a lot of move now into a non-physical contact on onboarding customers, whether for banks, which they started already, and potentially on NBFIs and consumer finance, buy now, pay later, everyone before the end of this year. So we're just waiting for some regulatory, executive regulations that we call. Once we see this happening, definitely there will be a lot of demand on RegTech. And finally, there will be also a lot of demand on robo-advisory. We've seen a couple of companies that are currently raising money for this purpose. And we have also seen a lot of successful companies that are in this space who already raised money for.
So wealth tech too. So from the look of it, it seems it's fairly holistic.
Yes, every part is there. InsurTech is there. Every part is there.
That sounds good. I should have actually started with congratulating you guys. So apologies for that. I think a couple of weeks ago, there was an announcement that Amazon had bought $10 million worth of EFG Hermes GDR with an option to convert it into 4.2% of value at a valuation of about $235 million.
Yes, thank you.
I've got that correct, right? So that's well done to me. The second part of it, which also is equally impressive, is you've signed a commercial agreement to be, at least in the initial days, the sole provider of BNPL on Amazon.eg. I think that's how the Amazon platform is.
Yes.
Right. So two parts to my question. One is, this is fairly impressive, and obviously you want to tell me how this sort of shapes, but I think it'll be incredibly useful to the audience, right? To kind of hear about the value story, right? And in the sense that, where's the genesis of value? What is the proposition that you have today? What makes you the foremost company in Egypt with what you do? So I'd really appreciate if you could sort of paint a story of how ValU has come over the years.
So ValU, actually, when we started ValU in 2017, so our first transaction, as you said, was in December 2017. And when we started ValU, we were trying to provide what we call a 2.0 BNPL, because we're dealing with very different regulation, very different market, and very different type of merchants. Because in buy now, pay later, you have actually two equally important clients: your merchants and your customers. Of course, your customers come first, but if you cannot please the merchants, then they're going to not get the right service. So we have to make sure we have both of them pleased as much as we can. At this point in time, it was very difficult for anyone to obtain credit in the Egyptian market instantly. And this was the major thing behind ValU. So ValU was in this market providing the only instant approval for people to get approved, and not only get approved and transact to. So our competition were mainly banks and old respectful companies that work on a manual underwriting process. So we decided that we want to automate the underwriting process, and we didn't want to go day one into only zero interest financing, because basically If you go into zero interest financing, then the only revenue you're going to get is
From the merchant.
from the merchant. Most of the merchants are actually traders with very slim margins, and Egypt has a lot of tax and custom already included in that. So the margins are really squeezed. So we wanted to launch what we call the 2.0. So we wanted to do financing. At this time, we were providing financing anywhere between 3 months and 24 months. Currently, we provide financing up to 72 months, depending on which product you're buying. But normally, most of our products will go anywhere between 6 and 60. We have 72 and sometimes we have 84. We signed also for club memberships with the Ahli Club in Egypt, a 10 years program for their membership.
Wow. Okay.
So we do everything from 3 months to 10 years. We wanted to also provide customers because, as I was saying, you have to have a physical document signed. And you still need to provide instant approval, and you want to be close to the merchant. So the starting point for us that we were renting a lot of booths in Egypt malls.
Yep.
So every mall you go, you find 3-4 booths of ValU and onboarding customers, and customers are actually buying the product from the mall. And sometimes we moved our team inside IKEA, for example, was the major example for that. And I think this successful thing had helped us with other players by moving our team inside those.
And I must make a point that you guys were doing this years before Afterpay started doing it with Simon's Ball in the US. So.
Yes, yeah, I think this was 3 years before that. So the first thing was underwriting customers, less documentation or no documentation. We only use IDs for that, and using our rule engine to underwrite customer for a limit that's active on their mobile. So this was what we're trying to do. And in 2017, 2018, there were no online payment accepted in Egypt except cash on delivery or cards.
Right.
So we were the first company to be the first, other than cash on delivery and cards, to be accepted online. So we got accepted online in October 2018. And I think this made a major difference for our client proposition, because now they can shop and they don't need to be actually physically available to shop from more than 300 different marketplaces and websites in Egypt. Our goal also was to make sure that we cover all needs of our customers. So we don't want to go and sell, we don't want to be the buy now, pay later that sells mostly fashion products, but we do everything. We do restaurants, we do fashion, we do appliances, we do medical care, we do travel. We have an agreement with Egypt Air. We are the only buy now, pay later in the Middle East that has a national carrier part of its buy now, pay later solution, or part of its merchant network. And we also onboarded Jumia, Noon, Amazon, all the big names in this area. So customers are using us whenever they see an option to use ValU, regardless of they need to do this payment on split the payment or not, because we have transformed completely into what I say, a payment option. So it's a credit card without the need of holding the card.
So Willie, just stopping you. Do you know of any other player globally who offers such a width of offering with regards to categories?
No.
Width of category in terms of timelines?
No.
None.
Currently no, but I think everyone is going to move to this, because you need to manage, from a point of view, the reason why we have done this, that we have a revolving credit limit. So it's not a transaction-based approval. It is a revolving credit limit. So people use us as credit card. So whenever they have the option to pay using us, they do this because they have also a very good option. With every repayment they do, the principal amount would go back into their credit limit. So our best days are always the first 5 days of the month, because people are paying their installment, and this installment goes down back into their account, and they are reusing this for other purposes. And we cover everything. We cover education, for example. So tuition fees for AUC in Egypt, for example, is being done by us across the board. So it's undergrad, postgrad. We're doing this actually with around 70 schools right now. We also acquired recently Share in Clickit, which is a payment company only for education, and they process around £5 billion every year. So we acquired this. We're currently integrating. We acquired part of them. We are currently integrating with them right now. We also provided products that no one had provided at the time. So we had launched our gift card in 2019, and the gift card is available for value and non-value customers. And you can even buy the gift card with your credit card or debit card. You don't have to be a value customer. The good thing about that this is the only electronic gift card in Egypt that's accepted now in 5,000 plus different brands. So people would go and buy a gift card, which we call to you, and they send it to anyone. None of them need to be actually a value customer. And we see a lot of transactions happening on our gross merchandise value coming from non-value customers through non-value customers. And we also have our instant cashback solution. Because when you have a credit card and you have offer on cashback, actually your cashback is going to hit your account like 40 days after that. We have our instant cashback. Our cashback hits your account the same time. So, and if you decide you want to return the product, then the cashback becomes a loan if you use it with other merchant. This is part of our tech stack that was very important for us because instant cashback is one of the tools that you use to keep getting interest from the client, but giving them another
Instant
perk.
Gratification also,
another
right?
perk, especially with heavy discounts happening from merchants. Everyone is actually interested to increase his limit, and this is a way to increase the limit at least for one transaction or more. So we have this cashback, and recently, and I'm very proud of what we have done recently with our innovative product. It's called in Arabic Shaqlabaz, which is an Arabic slang for upside down. In Egypt, we're not able to provide any cash loans. So other consumer finance companies in the region, like the UAE or Saudi, would be able to provide a cash loan. In Egypt, we can't do this. So we decided that why don't we refinance purchases that are done outside our network, because we don't cover 100% of the network, of course. So now we refinance customers. We opened up around 10 branches in different malls in Egypt where you can go in, use your value limit, cash out any of your receipts, whether this receipt was in Egypt or even abroad.
All right, so I've got two questions which come straight to my mind. So what I understand, Egypt has a 50% DBR
Yes.
restriction, even for your business, right? You also do instant approvals,
Yes.
right? So two questions, and you have this incredible width of products, time periods, category. Two parts to your question. One is, how do you achieve this instant credit while maintaining the 50% DBR, right? Because a lot of people struggle. Even till today, we can't get instant credit cards issued, right? In the UAE. People are saying that they're getting there, but I'm yet to see one, right? Second part of your question is, how have you managed bad debt?
Okay.
Right?
So the good news is, because this question we always had to answer in our early days. So because buy now, pay later was not something that is popular in the region, and we are part of a listed company in Egypt and London. So definitely the first question comes to mind, especially from competition and banks: what is your bad debt ratios? Until now, our bad debt ratio is around 1%, which is something that made us profitable since 2020. Because if you are having a very high percentage of default, whatever margins that you are doing are going to be eaten up by this.
Why 1%? Because that just feels very low.
This is 1%, and our approval rate is around 80%. So we approve 80% of our customers, and our bad debts are 1%. And I think one of the most differentiating points for ValU is its underwriting rule engine. We actually launched another rule engine a couple of months ago. It's our 2.0 version. And one of the things that differentiate ValU than any other company, from my point of view, or any other player, is our rule engine. Our rule engine would really give good customers, far bigger limits than our risky customers. So when you look at the overall portfolio, you will always be between the 1 and 1.5%. Our cost of risk in our calculation is around 3.6%. So if we have a cost of risk of 3.6%, our cost of fund, because we have accessibility to commercial debt, because we're a profitable company and regulated, which is one of the things that good to be in Egypt for, definitely. So our yield is around 23%. Our cost of fund and our cost of risk together would be around 14%. So still having 8% margin on monthly basis on our yield to cover all our OPEX and marketing and our tech hiring and everything.
So let me ask you another question. How do you get 80% approval rate then? Because I appreciate your risk engine is pretty perceptive. I appreciate that out of that 80% approval rate, there is a small percentage or a percentage which gets lower limits than there are others. But 80% is a phenomenally high approval rate.
Phenomenally high if you look at us as a consumer finance company.
Yes.
Phenomenally low if you compare us to buy now, pay later, because everyone
Okay.
so everyone on a buy now, pay later will get a credit limit for sure, a credit for transaction. So the thing is,
that's going to change soon.
So we are trying. What we're trying to do, we always try to be, again, what we call the 2.0 of buy now, pay later.
Right.
So we try to get most of what we can do from a customer experience and from merchant side for the buy now, pay later. And then on risk measures and financing, we're trying to be the normal consumer, old guard consumer finance company. And we're able to manage this because we have the right people on the business side and the right people on the risk side. And of course, the support of EFG also on the financing side. So we don't need to go and raise rounds and things like that, because we have already, EFG has invested in this company around $20 million, $10 million in 2017, 2018, and $10 million actually 3 months ago.
All right. Let me come to the question of challenges. Obviously, no business has no business goes without challenges.
There are a lot of challenges, but the good thing is that now when you deal with challenge, you're not alone. So for 2018, 2019, 2020, you were the only player. So you have challenges, but no one is willing to help. No one is willing to listen. Now we all have very similar challenges. The most important challenge, I think, especially in Egypt, is talent. Okay. Because again, we're not, I don't want to say this. And so we expats would prefer to work in the UAE, for example. We don't have business in the UAE. We don't want to be in the UAE market. We think it's already crowded. The banks are doing a very good job. The other fintechs are doing a very good job. So we can't hire people in UAE to work in Egypt. So this is one of the things. So tech hiring, especially tech hiring, is very difficult. The second challenge.
So how are you overcoming that bit?
We are overcoming that by trying to outsource some of our non-core businesses to other systems. So we use an outsourced ticketing system for our customers, for example. Okay. We use an outsourced system for our POS. We work closely with other startups. So things that we can do or we don't we do it with other startups. We work very closely with payment companies. We work with PayMob, with PayTabs, with Amazon Payment Services. So we are able to access their stack to do things. Sometimes it's only for us. Maybe afterwards there's no exclusivity on that, but they provide us with a lot of help on this tech side. Also, we're trying to actually capture people that are just graduating from university. And we have a lot of our average age in ValU is around 27 years old. Okay. And our tech team average age is around 24. So this is, and we have 50% female representation in our company. So what we're trying to do with tech and hiring, we're trying to acquire the right talents and trying to have our own breed of people working with us. So and outsource whatever not non-core for us. Outsource this to other respected players.
Impressive. Talent is your number one challenge.
This is number one challenge. The number two challenge is our covering more and more of merchants. And our point of view on that and our take on that was that you have to issue a card to do this. And the only issue is that central bank was not actually promoting this until last year. But in last year, we have seen a lot of companies getting approval to issue cards, and there are currently 2 live cards with people that are in similar industry like us. None of them is providing the same service, but in a similar industry like us. So once you have a card, your merchant pain is going to be reduced. You don't have to.
So these are open loop cards, which are
open loop
which
cards,
are acceptable. Okay,
acceptable in Egypt and abroad.
Outside, yeah.
So this is the other thing that getting the merchants on. The third thing is competition. We are facing severe competition.
Severe
competition, yes. Okay. Because what really happens in the market, every new company launching is either raised a 20, 30 million dollars. They want to invest in the market, or they want to have a big market share if they're supported by corporates like us. So the thing is, there are a lot of margins that are being squeezed. And the only way for us to deal with that is our ability to diversify the customer attention to different products. Mm-hmm. So for ValU, we have 5,000 brands and we cover all sectors. Mm-hmm. So customers definitely would like to go and buy from Noon. We are the sole buy now, pay later on Noon right now. We are the sole buy now, pay later on Jumia, and we are the sole buy now, pay later on Amazon, for example. So customers will have to come to us because they need to have access to those things. We provide education. We provide our cash loans, which is, inshallah, as I said, we provide instant cashback. So competition is putting a lot of pressure because basically there are a lot of money being burned on customer acquisition. And we are also trying to bring the customers by huge offers. But the thing is, we are able to maintain this because of our healthy financial position and our healthy leads.
So Walid, that beckons a question, right? And the answer might not be yes for you, but let me pose the question here, right? What a number of us, commentators in the market who are following BNPL, neobanking, even traditional banking globally, saying we're seeing some level of confluence where you're actually seeing neobanks launch BNPL players go beyond just being pure BNPL players and sort of evolve into, if I may want to use the term, super apps, right?
Yes.
Where you go beyond just the core of lending. Is that where you are going to be heading, or you're going to stay true to your, I guess?
So from day one, we wanted ValU to be, and we called ValU a lifestyle enabling solution.
Right.
So we were never positioned ourselves only as a buy now, pay later. The good thing is that we have two big transactions in the making. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to be a super app. We're not behind being a super app. On the contrary, we are trying to be a fully diversified financial solution to our customers. So there are two transactions that should happen this year. One of them is due to close very soon. We're acquiring a company that is in the, this would be an exclusive for you, Arjun, here. It's in the salary advance.
Fair enough. Early wage access,
space. And we are also looking at a company that is providing instant discounts.
Okay.
So those two companies, in addition to what ValU is providing right now, would enable us to provide a full financial solution at the same app. But we're not trying to put this as a super app.
Okay.
On the other side, we are doing a lot of activity with banks. Mm-hmm. So we'll try to. We're going to issue a card. The card is going to be based on a BIN sponsor. We are using banks to collect some of our installments. We are going to be available on some of the ATMs in the market where customers can pay their dues. We are also working very closely with MasterCard and Visa on different products, but it's all going to be financing solution or something that encourage you at least to buy the right product at the right time, at the right price. So this is what we're trying to provide, but not a super app.
All right. Maybe we can have a conversation from a year from now. You'll have changed your mind, because I personally think, and again, this is my humble and personal opinion, I think you guys have done a wonderful job, because you have all the building blocks which can actually, and I know this word super app kind of brings out this sort of notorious connotation of, of everybody thinks Alipay, but there are different variants to the super app. I think I could see you guys emerge as a very strong neobank or a super app or one of the same, because things. But in any case, let's change gears. Exciting news! You are about to enter the kingdom.
Yes,
right.
We are.
And from what I've heard, you're actually entering into a joint venture with a very large retail group. What can you share?
No, it's going to be public very soon, but I can share with you also on exclusive basis what's happening.
This is an exclusive event today.
Yes. I'm just counting on the fact that when you air this would not be in the news. This will already happen. So we signed an agreement with Al Hukr.
Okay.
It's going to be public very soon. It's going to be very soon public. I think this is our soft land into the kingdom.
Okay.
We look at Saudi for actually different reasons, but on top of that, the first thing is it will allow us to issue cash loans. So using our underwriting capabilities will enable us to actually issue cash loans, and will enable us to have a very positive yield day one, which will give us a lot of benefits when working on our buy now, pay later, or our POS lending thing, given the Hooker franchises that they own and the modes that they operate. The other thing on Saudi, this is the biggest market in the region. So definitely, if you want to be in this region, you have to make Saudi and Egypt.
Yep.
And we know all the Saudi players are coming to Egypt, whether the old guards or the new fintech.
All right.
So Extra announced entry to Egypt.
Yep.
Tabi hired a CEO for Egypt. I don't know if Tamara is interested or not, but definitely this is the other market. So we made it right until now in Egypt. So it's about time to move to the kingdom, and we are expecting everyone who made it right in the kingdom to move into Egypt. So you cannot say I'm foregoing this market, I'm not doing it. But the good thing is we're doing this with the right partner, and a lot of our merchants working with us in Egypt are waiting for us to be in Saudi.
I was going to say that.
And we already discussed this with all our network, and it gives us a lot of credibility being in Saudi. In the future, we want to have the ValU app, ValU customers would use ValU wherever they are. So if you are a customer that was onboarded in Saudi and you are in Egypt on vacation, then you can use ValU, and vice versa.
All right. So you're not going to be a super app, as you've already told me, right? So where is this? So we, the point of departure we all well know, right? 2017 BNPL 2.0. You've tackled a market where there was a massive financial inclusion challenge. You stick with the 50% DBR. You got an 80% approval rate, 1% delinquency. I guess 1% of GMV, if I'm not wrong.
1% of our outstanding portfolio, because our GMV portfolio. Actually our average GMV is 80. Our average tenor is 18 months.
Right.
So,
okay. And what's next? Are you is an IPO? Is that where you're heading?
Actually, we started. Of course, now as of today, no one would like to IPO a fintech company. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely not. Nobody would like. Nobody. No. Actually, nobody even wants to go out raising money right now.
No one is raising money. No one wants to IPO. And because I come from an investment bank, so I'm telling you, it's very difficult for anyone to IPO. But the thing is, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get Saudi right. This is our aim. There's another market,
and that's going to be launched by around the end of the year.
This would be launched. Our cash loans could be launched earlier, because they don't require all the developments that we are doing right now. They require minimal developments. So I hope that we will be able to launch Saudi at least cash loans in August, and before the end of the year we hit the market with our buy now pay later solution. So we will need to get Saudi right. This is the first thing. The second thing is we're looking at another market in North Africa, and we started scouting the market. And once we have this done, we're already working currently on the spin-off of ValU, still owned by EFG, but spin-off of ValU on a standalone basis. So we made massive hiring in the past couple of months. We hired a CTO. We hired a chief people's officer. We hired also a COO. So most of those roles, and CFO, most of those roles actually we got the support on them from EFG.
Right.
So now we're ready to start to be on a standalone basis in preparation for hopefully an IPO, but definitely when the markets permit.
But is this entry into North Africa possibly a route into Africa or
no?
Right. So you want to keep the, I guess you want to stay in the do I call
Arabic
it the
speaking
Arab speaking domain?
Yes. And actually, when you look at Africa, there is a fintech war in Africa.
Oh, totally.
So actually, we are receiving a lot of the fintech players in Africa are coming to Egypt, like OPay and others.
Yep.
So everyone is investing in Egypt. But frankly speaking, you don't want to go and compete in Africa. You want to compete where you really know that there is room for you to grow. And it's a very deregulated continent. So, and you are heavily regulated, whether in Egypt, whether in Saudi, whether in North Africa, they are heavily regulated. So the DNA of the company cannot change to be mostly on a deregulated side. So our focus is more Arabic-speaking countries, but currently our plan, as you know, we're going to Saudi, and this is already done. We just need to launch. We're looking at North Africa, and then we're looking to a small GCC player to add to this. But this is still in the making. All of this is still in the making, except Saudi, of course.
Really, it's actually very impressive, right? So, and you've done it all in about 4.5 years. Let's be honest, right? So you've grown. You're arguably the biggest sort of BNPL player in the region, I would say. I don't know the comparable numbers, but I would still guess you are one of the biggest players. You have a product portfolio which is wider than anyone else has an offering. You're looking at making a couple of strategic investments, which was an exclusive. I'll take that. You're entering the kingdom, which is fairly impressive. You're doing it with a very good group. You've obviously got this deal with Amazon, which is impressive. You're looking to enter a new country, and you're doing the right thing by avoiding the UAE, I must add. So I guess well done to you and your team. Fairly impressive story, or I must say, very impressive story. And I'm going to keep a close eye. We'll stay in touch.
Definitely.
I'm due to come to Cairo soon enough.
We're waiting for you.
Yeah. Well, I need to come back to Cairo. It's been quite a while.
But Cairo is getting very different. Yeah. It's getting nicer.
Well, last time I was there, I was in the middle of when there was unrest, and I tell about that story when I had to walk from Tahrir Square to Zamalek, right? But it's always good to look like me, because I think I look pretty local, so nobody was there to trouble me. But I really appreciate it. You've taken out time from this trip that you're here for work and
on numbers. One last thing before we finish.
No, go ahead.
Numbers, because I know there are no much comps in the market.
Right.
So I will give you some numbers from our side.
Go ahead.
So we closed last year with a GMV of around 2.4 billion pounds.
Yeah, but no, walk me back from the start, because you did this with me. Yeah, now this is a good one. So start from year one, because this is very impressive.
So in 2018, we had 14,000 transactions, and we financed around 130 million pounds of GMV.
Great.
In 2019, we had 55,000 transactions, and we were able to finance 350 million pounds.
So nearly 3x.
In COVID, we went to a 1 billion GMV for the first time. We had around 200,000 transactions. And in 2021, we had 500,000 transactions with 2.3 billion. We have already achieved this figure as of end of April. So
you're looking at a 6 billion number?
Yes, we are hitting, hopefully, fingers crossed, we are hitting 6 billion this year. And now we actually do around 3,000 to 4,000 transactions every day.
Wow. Very impressive. I think we should close it at that. Yes. Right? We should close it at that. I really thank you for coming.
Thank you, Arjun.
Right?
Thank you very much.
And I definitely will see you in Cairo, and with those numbers, you're buying me dinner.
Of course.
So thank you, everybody. This was great talking to Walid, and I think this story of how ValU has grown over the last 4 years is very, very impressive. I thank Walid to take out time on this trip. As I said, he is founder and CEO of ValU, which is part of EFG Hermes. With that, I'd say goodbye till we meet again. See you.